back to Ask GTN. With the race season starting to pick up, we've been getting more questions in from you guys who've entered your very first ever triathlon. Well, I've taken a selection of these questions, sticking to the more common themes that you seem to be interested in. I'm going to be doing my best to put you at ease as your debut race looms closer. A very common topic is clothing, and it can be a little bit daunting when you're trying to work out what to wear for your first event, as you're suddenly combining swimming, cycling and running all in one. And we did have a huge amount of questions on this topic. I've narrowed it down to just a couple, but I think they'll still cover the majority of your queries with this. And this first one came in on YouTube with reaction to the trisuit video that we put out. And it's from Bill Boyfie. It says, you didn't touch on the comfort during the run. They're going to be doing a duathlon, the world champs, and it's a 10K run, 160K bike, 30K run. It says, I tend to wear the bike shorts for the first 10, but then change into running shorts later. What do you think about the comfort while running in a trisuit as an alternative? Well, they've got another very similar question, closely related here, and this one's sent in on Instagram stories from triathlete_Payush. Trisuit in your first triathlon or not? Well, I mean, comfort is key here, and that's the most important thing you've got to remember. If you're doing your very first triathlon, you want to be comfortable both physically, but also with what you're wearing, and you know you're going to look and feel confident with that. So there is nothing wrong in getting changed for the different phases. Obviously, it depends on the length of the triathlon as to how long you're going to spend in your transition. And it's also worth noting what change facilities are available, because if you do intend to completely change your shorts or completely change your top, then you'll need to have somewhere to either change under or find some changing tents, which lots of competitions do provide, but nudity is illegal in triathlon, so bear that in mind when you're working out what to wear. For example, if you want to, you could actually swim in a swimsuit as long as it's not wetsuit compulsory, and then you can change into your cycle kit for the bike when you enjoy a thicker chamois, especially if you've got a longer bike ride, and then for the run, if you want, you can change into your running kit. However, if you're doing a short distance triathlon, you need to be aware of the time this is going to take in each transition, and one of the options, you could maybe opt for a pair of tri shorts, and you keep them on for all 3 phases, but you can change your top half, so you could wear a bike jersey and then you can change into a running top afterwards. But if you do have the budget to afford a trisuit, or you think you're going to be doing quite a few triathlons, it could be worth the investment, because not only if you find one that fits, it can be more comfortable, but also it will save you a lot of time in transition. And that leads us on to our next question, which comes in from Martin Stadler, still on the topic of clothing. He wrote in on YouTube saying, why would you wear a 2-piece during the swim instead of just putting it on for the bike? Well, Martin, the idea behind a trisuit, whether it's a 2-piece or a 1-piece, is the fact that it will save you time and also be comfortable. But if you do opt to take it off for the swim, you've obviously got that option, and then put it on in T1. Just be aware that trying to get tight lycra on whilst you're wet and in a bit of a hurry can be rather difficult, and you might well find it's less comfortable when you've got it on in a twist afterwards. How to train for your first triathlon is another pretty broad topic, and to reflect that, we have had a broad range of questions in from you guys, one of which caught my eye was sent in as a reaction to the aero bar video on YouTube, and this is sent in by Lou Ironman 1995. It says, hi everyone, here in Claremont, Florida, got good choices. This is talking about the bike training, so the loop, the park with good hills or a park that's flat, as well as obviously training indoors, which replicates the flat very easily. His first race is in September and is entirely flat, but could have a heavy wind. Should he include riding hills, even though the race has no hills in September? Well, it is important to be aware of the terrain that you're going to be racing on, and if you live nearby, then great, because you can practice on that naturally. If not, then just make sure you note it and you can practice on something similar. And as you get closer to the race, that becomes more important. But far out, you do need to keep your training varied, and the more variation you've got, the better your body will be able to adapt and get stronger. And hills are a great way to get strong. So you want to try and include those further away from the race when you're doing your base training and your building training, and you can use this just to naturally make yourself work harder and also to keep you mentally stimulated. And he's mentioned there as well about having strong winds, and you quite often find, even if you're riding on the flat, but you're into a really heavy headwind, it can actually feel like you're riding on a gradual uphill. So again, hills come in handy for that. But you might be saying, well, I don't have any hills near me, but I'm going to be racing somewhere hilly. Yes, that is a little bit harder to replicate, but you can train for this by doing some over-gearing work. So basically you put your bike in a high gear, and then you're pedaling more slowly, but against a higher resistance. And that will not only make you stronger, but it'll also help to replicate it when you do actually come to hills when it comes to the race day. Well, staying with the bike, we've got another bike-related question in on YouTube, and this one comes in from Jack Watson. He says, hey, GTN, signed up for Ironman Canada. I'm a bit nervous for the bike, so I don't have time to go and do 5-hour rides. Is there a way I can improve my endurance in the gym, or would doing shorter rides at a higher intensity be beneficial? Well, Jack, I don't think you're alone on this one, and there's gonna be lots of other people saying, yes, me too. Finding time to do a 5-hour bike ride is pretty tough. But you'll be pleased to know the answer is yes, because with a well-structured 2 to 3 hour ride, you can get almost as much benefit as you could from a 5-hour ride. And again, this is where hills can come in really handy, because they can naturally make you work much harder, and you wouldn't need to be doing them for as long. The same with an indoor trainer. An indoor trainer, you're taking out any freewheeling time, so that really is a great use of your time. And if you are shortening it and you want some ideas on structuring your sessions, then you need to be doing some work at race pace or above race pace, so towards your threshold, and you'll find that's a great way to really improve your bike fitness without having to spend hours on the bike. Well, our next question also links into not having enough time when it comes to training for triathlon. And this one's sent in on YouTube from Tiago R. And Tiago says, I was wondering about the importance of strength training in swimming, cycling, and running sessions. Isn't it important for core stability and stuff? Well, Tiago, first up, yes, it is. Now, you might be wondering what I'm on about when I'm talking about time constraints and then adding in something extra. But trust me, in the long run, this can save you quite a lot of time with injury prevention and allowing you to be far more efficient as an athlete. So just adding in a few sessions a week, whether it's after a training session or activation exercises before, can help in all of the 3 disciplines. For example, in the cycling, if you've got a strong core, can help you hold that aero position for longer, make you more efficient. Lots of stretching required for swimming to really help you get into that streamline position. When it comes to running, there are so many injury prevention exercises you can do to really help your body cope with the load of training for the 3 sports. So next time you're thinking, I'm out of time, I'm just going to drop my gym session, going to the gym isn't necessarily about getting big. It's about making your body resilient for the stresses that we put on it with swim, bike, and run. And in the long term, I promise you, you will see the benefits. So to finish off, I've got a few quick questions to answer that have come in through Instagram. To get us going, we have a couple here. Do you need your own bike? Can I do it on a hybrid bike with road tires? Well, yes, you do need, your own bike, or at least a bike you've borrowed, because competitions do not provide the bicycles for you. But as for what type of bike, it really is up to you. As long as it's got working brakes and it's in good working order, and it's a pedal bike, obviously, then it's open to you what you want to choose. If you do borrow a bike from a friend or somebody else, just make sure that you're comfortable on it and you've had a practice beforehand, and that it is working adequately, because they will check it when you go to check in. Right, next question. What do I have to check before the race start? Well, ultimately, you need to know the course, because yes, events will have marshals and their job is to guide you, but it's not their responsibility. You are responsible for knowing the course. So if you've got a chance to do a recce of the course in the days beforehand, then that's great, but make sure you at least do a walkthrough transition. And talking of transition, make sure you've got everything set up and ready that you need. Your bike tires are pumped up, your bike is in the right gear, and you've got all the equipment you're going to need, including your race number. Make sure that your race number is on your arm or your leg, if whatever the rules say for that event, and that you've got the event swim cap, because without those, you might well find you get disqualified. So those are the main things you need to concentrate on checking off before you start. Next question. Is it best to change shoes or cycle in your running trainers? Well, it does depend what you train in and what you're used to. If you only do all your cycling at the moment in your trainers and you're running in your trainers, then you're not going to change anything before race day. And if you are doing, say, a very short distance duathlon, when you go from run to bike to run, then trainers could well be a good option for you. But if you're at the stage where you're more than happy cycling in your cycle shoes with clipless pedals, then do not change that for race day. You want to cycle in what you're comfortable in and what you can be most efficient in, and then change into your running shoes for the run. But there is no rule for this, and it's what you're most happy with. And then our final one, well, biggest mistakes first timers make in transition. Well, if you ever have watched a triathlon, even if you haven't done one yet, you will see people making mistakes and getting flustered, because as soon as you've got adrenaline of race day and you're trying to do something fast, suddenly all much harder. And one of the biggest things you see is people not being able to find their bicycle or their transition spot, because you've looked at it when you're concentrating on setting it up and you might not have looked at the bigger picture. So try and note which row you're in. If it's a big race, it should have letters or numbers on, and then follow follow that to find your bike. And then most importantly is know the race rules. And two of the really important race rules are, first one about your helmet. So make sure your helmet is on and done up before you take your bicycle off the rack. And the same goes for when you're bringing it back. Make sure your bicycle is racked back up before you take your helmet off. That's one of the most essential rules, which you see a lot of beginners going wrong. And then the other one being the mount and the dismount line. So make sure when you run with your bicycle out of transition that you do not get on your bike until you've crossed over that line. That's the mount line. When you finish the bike ride, you must get off your bike before the dismount line. Those are probably the key rules and the things you see people making mistakes with most often. Doing your first triathlon can be daunting, but just make sure that you practice those areas you're less sure of, and when you get to race day, just go and have fun. You're gonna have a massive sense of achievement afterwards, and hopefully you'll be going straight away to sign up for your next event. So do let us know how you get on in your first event, and good luck. Hopefully you found this useful and enjoyed it. Hit the thumb up like button if you have. And if you're new to triathlon and you want to get all the tips you can, then subscribe to GTN by hitting the globe. And if you are training for your first triathlon, we've made a series of videos on that just here. And if it's transition tips you're after, well, there's a couple of videos on that just here.